Number 1. You shouldn't pick up hitchhikers. I only ever picked up a hitchhiker once in my entire life. This time was so absolutely bad that I would never consider doing it again. Hell, if I saw a one-legged war veteran naked in the snow hitchhiking, I wouldn't pick him up. And that's how frightening this experience was for me. I was making a cross-country drive back in the 1990s. My family lived in the East, and I was living in California. I didn't really care for flying, so whenever I went home, I simply enjoyed a nice trip from California to Pennsylvania in a car. It was a good 4 to 5 day trip. On the second night, when I was driving through the desert at night, I noticed that there was a guy on the side of the road up in the distance. He was holding a cardboard sign and sitting on the shoulder. I thought it was odd to see that in the desert, but I also immediately had sympathy for the guy, so I picked him up. He seemed elated at first. He made a lot of small talk. I asked him where I could take him, and he said he wasn't going anywhere in particular. If I could just take him to the next city, I could drop him off there. After a short while, though, his elation sort of settled down. It was then that, for a while, things began to get weird. He started saying things that really creeped me out. And it began when he just said, right out of the blue, you shouldn't pick up hitchhikers. I was surprised, but I asked him why he would say such a thing. He was a hitchhiker who needed a ride after all. "Yeah, but you don't know anything about me," he responded. "You can run into some pretty crazy people out here." He paused for a moment and then laughed. Personally, I'd never pick up a hitchhiker. I tried countering by saying that he had no idea what kind of person the guy picking him up was either. He actually agreed with that. I tried to change the subject several times. I tried to ask him about why he was out here hitchhiking to begin with. He really didn't want to talk about it, though. After a while, he went back to talking about the dangers of hitchhiking. It was then that he said that he had a question for me. He asked me, "So what would you do if I had a box cutter in my jacket and I pulled it out and on you?" The question freaked me out, of course, but I didn't really want to let that show. I simply responded, "I'd probably do whatever you wanted me to. I don't want to get hurt." I then laughed a little. The hitchhiker laughed back. And then he changed the subject and talked about other things. When we got to the next city, he told me I could drop him off at a hotel and he'd find himself a room. I agreed, and was at that point a bit upset to let him go. After the initial freakiness, we actually had good conversation the rest of the ride. I pulled up to the office of the hotel, told him goodbye, and he got out of the car. Before closing the door, however, he paused for a moment. He reached into his pocket and took out a box cutter. He showed it to me and laughed. "You're pretty lucky, man," he told me. "I only like people who fight back." He closed the door, and I sped out of there as quickly as possible. I have never picked up a hitchhiker since. Number 2. The rain. We've probably all heard the old adage that you should never pick up a hitchhiker. I remember seeing that movie from the 1980s, The Hitcher. It scared the crap out of me, and I swore I would never pick up a hitchhiker, and I never have. But I did hitchhike once. I was in college at the time. I'd like to say that this was a time when I was studying at the library, or something like that, but it wasn't. I was at an off-campus party with some friends. Well, it wasn't only off-campus, it was like one town over. My friend Mike gave me a ride to the party. I was definitely drinking a lot that night and having a ball. Before I knew it, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I went looking for Mike, and it turned out that bastard had met a girl 2 hours before and had left. I tried calling and texting him, but he wasn't answering me. I tried finding someone else to drive me home, but either everyone was too drunk, or they didn't want to leave the party yet. I had to get back to the dorms, though, because I had a lot of work to do the next morning. Or next afternoon, but back in college that's what I considered morning. Not knowing what else to do, and not having money for a cab, I figured I would just have to hoof it. If I got lucky, maybe Mike would get in touch with me while I was walking, and come pick me up. If not, it's not like I haven't walked pretty long distances in the past before. So I set out. I was out for maybe 15 minutes when I saw the first strike of lightning in the sky. I groaned and tried to walk faster. I kept hoping I could make it home before the rain started. I didn't. About 10 minutes after I saw that bolt of lightning, it began raining lightly. It was then that a car came down the road. It pulled ahead of me and onto the curb. When I walked by it, the guy offered me a ride. I wasn't sure at first. As I mentioned, I always thought hitchhiking was dangerous. But a loud crack of thunder changed my mind, and I got into the car. I immediately wished I hadn't. The guy driving the car was creepy. He kept giving me a lot of weird looks and didn't really say much. I tried thanking him for giving me the ride, but he just brushed me off. He just almost seemed like he was uncomfortable with me being in the car. And that of course made me wonder why he picked me up to begin with. When we were getting close to the college campus, he asked me if I could grab something out of his glove compartment for him. I said sure, and I opened it. I froze as I saw a large knife sitting in there. I asked him what he needed, and he actually said to me, "Could you hand me the knife?" I couldn't think of a single reason, or at least a single non-scary reason, that the guy would need a knife while driving his car. I asked him what he needed it for, and at that moment, he got really angry with me and yelled, "Just give me the damn knife!" When I hesitated, he began to lean over me and reach for it himself. Well, I was closer to the knife, and now I was scared, so I grabbed the knife myself. I pointed it at him, and he reclined to his side of the car. I demanded that he stop the car and let me out. He seemed really pissed off, but he did pull over. As I was getting out, he again told me to give him back his knife. I basically told him to get lost, and I'd leave it on the side of the road for him, so he could come back and get it. Cursing, he did leave. I didn't leave the knife there. I, in fact, threw it in the garbage. The last thing I needed was for him to come back for it, and then chase me down. I walked the short way back to my room in the rain. Number 3. The Snow. A few winters back, I had a pretty horrible experience with a hitchhiker. I was out really late at night, having attended a holiday party for work. While I was talking with a few people, I noticed something that caught my eye out the window. It was snowing. I hadn't expected that to happen. Plus, I drive a Mustang, which has rear-wheel drive, and doesn't necessarily drive very well in snowy weather. I had to excuse myself from the party and drive on home. Once I got on the road, the snow began falling heavily. Visibility was really bad. I also had to drive really slowly to keep from skidding around. As I was driving on the road, I noticed a figure up ahead in the light of a street lamp. It was a hitchhiker. My first impulse was to just drive past him. The only thing I wanted was to get home. But then I remembered that when I was younger, I used to go hitchhiking all the time. and there were plenty of people who picked me up and helped me out. So I pulled over and I offered the guy a ride. He was about the same size as me. I'm also a guy if you haven't figured that out yet. He was vastly underdressed for being out in this kind of weather. He had on a pair of jeans and a jean jacket. No hat, no gloves, nothing like that. As I pulled back onto the road, I asked him where he was off to. At first he didn't answer me. He just sort of looked at me really funny. When I then asked him where I could take him, he oddly responded, "Where are you going?" I wasn't sure how to answer. I was already regretting picking him up, though. I told him simply that I was going home. He replied, "Oh, where's home?" I wasn't about to tell a complete stranger where I lived, especially not one who was acting as weird as he was. So I lied, and I told him I lived in a place that I didn't live. I asked him again where he needed me to take him. What he said next gives me goosebumps even today. His response simply was, "Yeah, that's where I'm going too." He smiled at me. What a coincidence, huh? I obviously didn't believe him, but decided I would just drive him there. I thought I could just let him out of the car and then just drive off on my own. So I drove him to the apartment complex I had lied and told him I lived in. When I pulled in, I asked him what building he lived in, and told him I would drop him off at his building. "No, there's no need," he responded. "Just park where you normally park, and I'll walk back to my place from there." I didn't know what the guy was up to, but I couldn't imagine it was going to be good. I figured I had to pretend to go along with it, though, just to get him out of the car. So I pulled into a parking spot and indicated the building I claimed to live in. I had a plan to get away from him, but the timing would have to be perfect in order for it to work. I opened the door and stepped out of the car. He did too. I pretended I was going to shut my door, but I didn't. When he shut his door, I quickly hit the lock door button. I then pulled my door open, which wasn't latched. I got back in the car and slammed my door. It turned out that my reservations about the guy were accurate. When he saw what happened, he started yelling and screaming at me. As I pulled out of the parking spot, he grabbed onto the passenger side view mirror. He started pounding on my car as I pulled away from him, but I made no attempt to try not to hit him. I saw him grab a knife out of his pocket, and he ran it along the side of my car, scraping the hell out of it as I drove away. I got away with nothing but a very nasty and long cut in my paint job. It cost a lot to fix, but at least I got away without the cut on me. Hey all, Killer Orange Cat here. If you like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button. And feel free to comment on it and share it with someone else you might think might enjoy it. If you're not already subscribed to Killer Orange Cat, please hit the subscribe button below, or the button that will appear on screen towards the end of this closing. If you have a story you would like narrated on Killer Orange Cat, please email it to the address included in the description. Also feel free to follow Ichigo and myself on Facebook and Twitter. I do have to apologize for my voice here. I'm not sure if you could tell, but I have a tiny bit of a cold, but I hope the video was still enjoyable. I hope you're all having a great holiday season. Just make sure to check in your closet and check under your bed, because you never know where a Killer Orange Cat might be hiding. Good night.